friends, thank you once again for joining the journey as we flow through consciousness, this field of infinite consciousness, which is love, via the vessel of our own individual pixels of rainbow light that is fundamentally love, as everything is. So I wanted to share, this crystal, I suppose, was calling out for some love and attention, and I do love this Merkaba shape. This is I have found this shape to be very activating to draw. And so you can see here, if you were to draw it, to create this 3D image, but you're using a pen and paper, you can see the triangles within the triangles and how they all converge at the center point. But then, I think you can really see just from this, me holding it here, how you might go about drawing that. And, you can look it up online if that's easier, but it's quite simple. And I spent a couple of days at one point about 4 years ago, just going through a major period of activation, and I was drawing the Merkaba shape consistently, constantly. So I'm trying to get comfortable here on these rocks. So I wanted to talk to you all about time loops. It's a concept that has come up for me regularly just through my own awareness as I started learning about time dilation and how we can work with time and affect the future, the past, from the present moment, because all time is happening now. It's all fundamentally one single now moment, because as our views about past events shift, so does the current moment, because we gain new perspective. We might have forgiveness where we had trouble with that before in the situation, so we move past things, and then it opens up new realms of potential for us to create by going through these healing journeys where we can really essentially rewrite the past in a lot of ways, and in such wonderful ways, where we come to peace with what happened in the past, but we maybe see where we might have made different choices, and by going through that process, we can sort of gain access to other timelines that are timelines that would result from us having made those other choices. So it's almost like we get to access those timelines having knowing now that we would have made a different decision in the past, while having just forgiving ourselves and forgiving anyone involved, and just going back to that state of unconditional love. So, time loop. So this concept keeps coming up, and I really wanted to talk to you all about it. I've been having conversations with friends about this, and it feels that when we are working to affect events in the future, in the past, with our consciousness in this now moment, that we are in essence creating a form of a time loop, a very light and etheric one that's very gentle to work with, and very, pleasant and forgiving, using the technology of the human body, as opposed to some kind of science fiction, what we see in science fiction movies that I feel is very real in our reality, but we may not currently have access to it. However, through our consciousness, that's the ultimate access anyway. And I was getting sort of frustrated of why can't we have access to this technology now? But what I came back to was that we have it right here. We have it with each of our human bodies. It's really, we've barely even scratched the surface of tapping into the potential that we each hold within, as being essentially divine creators with such a potent ability to create. And now, as I've said before, if we want to step into that role as being captain of our own ship, and considering we're leading a vortex of consciousness, that it's each of us is a single bubble that is Planck length. In any dimension you look, that little bubble from point to point is always going to be 1 unit of Planck. And that each of us has our own unique little bubble that is part of this like quantum foam, you could say. This is an abstraction from that layer where everything is just one consciousness, which is pure love. So we go, one single consciousness, I am, this is great, but I'm bored, I want to have fun, I want to play, I want to create. Let me pretend I'm infinite separate pixels. So in our universe, Planck is as small as you can go. So I've been sort of forming this vision of just these little spheres of reality that it's sort of an illusion of separation, of like saying, okay, this is my sphere and you've got your sphere and everyone has our own sphere, but we're existing in the sea of these spheres that are just floating around together and taking various paths and flowing together, moving in these currents. This being like a form of like pure fundamental concept. And that from that point of Planck, we fractalically, according to the golden ratio, expand outward via a holographic projection that originates from each of our single bubbles. This is sort of my visualization from what I've learned of some of these scientific concepts of how I've come to see it in my own mind's eye, of what I feel like really could be going on here. So, hear me out. Let me know if you disagree in any way. I'm happy to hear, or if you have any add-on thoughts to this. But this individual sphere that we each this is our authentic self. We have the potential to have full autonomy over our entire reality, our entire creation that we're creating in each moment, because of this sphere sort of being like our domain. And that these spheres having outer encompassing spheres that are exactly golden ratio times larger. And so we begin to overlap our experiences with one another while knowing that we can just go lie down and close our eyes, go into a meditative state and tap back into that 0 point of everything being love. It's always there, even just sitting and closing our eyes. Even just sitting without closing our eyes. Just feeling one with all, it's really the intention of that. But, certain things that we do can help us enhance that state, as I talked about in a recent video. So time loops, working with time, I see that as creating a bubble. It's again fractalic, because time and matter are intricately embedded with one another. They exist for one another to exist, you could say, for all of this to exist. And now, the Planck length and time in our universe being very specific, but yet I can see, it's 1.35 times 10 to the negative 35, or 1.36 times 10 to the negative 35 meters, something along those lines. I kind of want to learn the miles version of it, because it's a more sacred dimension, or feet or inches or something, and start working with more versions of Planck. But we can also look at Planck time. So now this is really clarifying for me in the last couple days, even now as I say it to you all. Time is also fractalic according to golden ratio, just like space is. In our universe, we have Planck as the fundamental unit all physics uses. So what I started to see once I started learning this, and this is the Planck Fire, Planck, Phire formula, assisted me greatly to be able to visualize this by providing a scientific framework. That's from Dan Winter. He's the one that really uncovered it and has honed in on it. But being an artist and wanting to see it in my mind's eye, I'm like, just naturally started to look at what does that look like. And I can see it, this Planck-sized sphere, no matter what dimension from point to point, any 2 points in this sphere, if you go directly across and it's a mirror image, it's always going to be exactly Planck. So we also have a fundamental unit of Planck time that is directly related to the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. And then that being like rate times time equals distance. So if we multiply 1 unit of Planck length by 1 unit of Planck time, you see, rate times time. So multiply 186,000 miles per second multiplied by 1 unit of Planck time, the result will be 1 unit of Planck length, showing the direct relationship between the speed of light in our universe. From everything I'm hearing, it can be modified and changed, but if there's sort of like a kind of the natural speed of light that's going through the vacuum of what that looks like, perhaps, it directly correlates to these units of Planck length and time. So time loops. So if we can fractalically expand our beingness from that one single unit of Planck size, as this is sort of my own theory, you could say, that's evolving, based on what I learned from other people, but I'm wanting to ask people if they agree, or if they think this is true, that each of us is sort of in charge of our own little Planck length sphere, and that time as we experience it is also going to fractal out of that unit of Planck time at golden ratio intervals. Because the more I went into golden ratio and things like Planck, it just seems so obvious to me that we could have infinite universes, each with their own unit of Planck, to where you can have many universes embedded in one another. It's just like a video game that can render whatever scene you want if you have like a myriad of selections. But they're all embedded in one another, but they have slightly different units of Planck, so they can all exist simultaneously in sort of the same game board, if you want to say, all these dimensions overlapping with one another, infinite universes that are all sort of connected to each other, because if you just adjust Planck a little bit, it might be a slightly different universe that's like hardly distinguishable, perhaps. Because the golden ratio is fixed. Because when you go through the Fibonacci, which I've done in a video where it's so fun to do it yourself, you just start with 0 and 1. And it's just like the digital world. The whole computer reality is built on zeros and ones. Everything you see. And we see that coming from the 0 point where all is love, and this this one consciousness is like, I want to play a game with myself that I'm separate pixels of consciousness. And this one infinite creator of one consciousness says, okay, I'm going to pretend to be these little bubbles. And I can make as many universes as I want. Each one I can keep track by just having a different value for Planck, whether it's length or time or whatever unit. And that golden ratio, though, on the other hand, is uniform. Because the whole Fibonacci series is created from 0 and 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. You get the next number in the series by adding the two previous numbers. So just with 0 and 1, our whole reality is coded. And 0 plus 1 is 1. Then we add 1 and 1 and we get 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. 5 plus 8 is 13. 8 plus 13 is 21. And each time we divide the last number in the series by the previous number, we start to get closer and closer to perfected golden ratio. And golden ratio is, the formula is one, okay, I will have to correct myself if I'm wrong, but if my memory serves correct, it's 1 plus the square root of 5 divided by 2. I'm on a quest to find out where that formula came from and why. That's obvious. I know working with the geometry more should likely help provide that solution, but Fibonacci, as it extends out and we look at the ratio between the two numbers in the series, gets closer and closer and closer to golden ratio. So we know what perfected golden ratio looks like. So no matter what universe you had with any infinitely different values of Planck, the golden ratio would still be exactly the same. And for me, there's something about working with these formulas where we go deep in to look at where these numbers came from, look at how they were discovered. It'd be great. Actually, Max Planck, I can't believe I didn't think about this before, but he's a scientist that would love to go into those stories of who he was, how he came to this knowledge and awareness. That, sometimes just learning things, it might have been discovered for a long time, but to me it can feel like magic. This connecting the speed of light with Planck length and Planck time, to me that feels like decoding the magic of this reality with science as a tool, but knowing that this underlying magic of the 0 point, a pure potential, where everything is love. For me, that's really foundational wisdom, so I hope that that can help you all, and I feel many of you all already fundamentally know a lot of these things, but it helps to hear it. So that about wraps it up for now. I'm getting ready to go on this journey, so I got a lot of work cut out ahead of me. I got my work cut out for me, so to speak. So I'm about to get into packing and traveling, cleaning mode, big time. Again, so much gratitude for you all for being on the journey together. Each time we merge consciousness across time and space in the pure crystalline light form of rainbow pixelated light that we are. I'm grateful you're here on the planet in such a crucial moment in our history where it's really like, I really feel we can tap into it feeling like Christmas every day. And I love saying that. I want to keep saying it. And let's just make it true just by believing it can be true, wanting it to be true, seeing it true. So paradise is here on earth. All right, love you all so much.